A couple of days ago I started this series where I was going through Project Visionary to improve the different character variants and other features within the mod. I started out by improving the Citron variants, but I did a poll on my YouTube channel on what character I'd take a look at next, and Soldier won by a landslide. Which means today we're going to be taking a look at the two Soldier variants that are in the mod and seeing what I can do to improve them. So let's start by seeing what I'm working with. So we've got the character here that I made last time, Shutdown Citron. So if we go in the booth and swap to the zombies, go over to the Soldier, you can see we've got two brand new variants here. So first we've got the ZPD Riot Trooper. He's the legendary variant, and you can see here his design's based off the SWAT zombie from Garden Warfare 1. I'm probably going to improve this since I was working on another version of the SWAT zombie, so I'll probably put that into this mod with some changes. So the gimmick of this character is that he's the electric variant, as you probably expected since it's a police character. He fires like a taser, you can see here it's a close range weapon. I'm pretty sure this is projectile based and not a trapezoid similar to what the chemist uses. Alright, so it is projectile. What if I get really close? Alright, so it is just entirely projectile. I don't know why I do that. And then if I get like multiple kills, let me just kill these weeds. Oh, it's Squish. Hello, Squish. Weapon's really awkward to use, I can't lie. Alright, so it's a weirdly pitched down version of Big Wave Beach's theme. And I turn blue. I could probably come up with something more interesting for this. He's going to stay a legendary since obviously the Soldier lacks a legendary variant as of now. As for the model, it doesn't seem too great. Like the arm you can see here is clearly just detached from the body in some way. But I do like this. When you shoot the little ZPG, it's a cage that opens up. Could probably come up with a new way to do that, because obviously I'm not a big fan of this rocket. The other character is the Hazard Trooper. This one I'm a lot happier with, but it still does need some improvements. I did bring this variant back in the Graveyard expansion mod, so I'll probably take a lot of the things I did for him in that and put it in this. Honestly, I kind of forgot he was a fully automatic character in this mod. I thought that was just in Graveyard expansion. All around, this is one of the better characters in this mod, so I don't really feel like I'll have to do too much to kind of make him better. Main thing that I'm going to be changing is probably the sound, since it's kind of just a bit lackluster. Apart from that, there's not really much this character needs, which honestly I'm quite thankful for, because it's, you know, makes things a lot easier if I already have a character that is half decent. I am going to update the model though to make it the one from Graveyard expansion with the glowing eyes and that, just to make it look a bit better. Maybe add some effects to it too, like some toxic effects similar to what Dr. Toxic uses. With all that out the way, it's time to work on the characters. The first one I wanted to work on was the Riot Trooper, and this was going to be really difficult because honestly this is probably one of the worst characters in the mod. You've got effects that are really bad, a sound effect that cuts out every 5 seconds, and a model that looks barely complete. I'm pretty sure I modeled the harness during a class in college, so that's probably why it sucks. Now you'd think it would just be easy to change all the things I've just mentioned, but it's not that easy because I do not like the gimmick this character has. He's a shotgun character and I just don't think it works for a foot soldier, so we're going to have to figure out a completely different way to handle the weapon. I started by making it a tap fire weapon, but honestly this didn't really work out well. So my idea now is to try and go back to the shotgun and maybe just execute it better instead of just making it physicist weapon. So my idea was to try and make it a spread weapon instead of just being one projectile and then a trapezoid. And for once the audio's not playing up. Spoke a bit too soon. So it became apparent to me that if I want to even have an ounce of fun developing this character, I probably want to change the sound effect so it doesn't cut off every 5 seconds. While these sound effects are a lot better, it still sounds too close to the physicist, which I really don't like the idea of. But we're going to take a step back for a minute and I want to work on the legendary mode a little bit, because at the moment it's just using some sound effects from Big Wave Beach, but I wanted to change it up a bit and maybe have a unique track. So I went to Vixo-Chen, who's known for making really good Garden Warfare custom themes, and asked if I could use one of his tracks for SWAT Zombie's theme, and he was perfectly okay with it, so this is how he implemented it in game. I still plan on changing the weapon sound effects, but I wanted to go back and change up the model a little bit. Here's the model I used in Project Visionary. You can see here it's a model I made in 2022 and just modified it to fit the ZPD officer theme. But early this year I was developing a different model for SWAT Zombie for Garden Warfare 1, and I'm thinking I'm going to repurpose this model for Project Visionary. So I got rid of all the realistic assets that were on the model and started polishing it up ready for Garden Warfare 2. For his backpack I made it so he has the 3 rockets from SWAT Zombie, but I made it so 2 of the rockets have lights in it, so it's like a police siren. I found a zombie in PvZ2 that's like a riot trooper, and I decided to add a visor to mine to make it look similar. And after all that, this is how it looked once I put it in game. After this, in the customization menu I made it so it's an option to have the riot visor on. I also made some adjustments to the audio too. For all that finished, I'm going to leave the Riot Trooper for the minute and start working on the other variant that's in this mod. No, not this one. This one's been completely scrapped. Get this off my screen. The Hazard Trooper. This is a character I put in my Graveyard expansion mod, so I'm going to be using the model that I put in that mod for this mod. Mainly because I have no other ideas on how I could redo this character model, and I quite like the one I put in the Graveyard expansion mod. Look at that, I did it in about 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't really know what to say for this character considering everything's just a copy-paste job from another mod that has a more polished version of it. I mean, I could do the renders for the characters, that's new. Everything I've made up to this point, I did nearly a month ago now when it was November. This video is meant to come out midway through November, it is now December. And since it's December, that means I need to do a Christmas update for the mod. No, I'm not bringing that thing back, go away. So I think the first thing I'm going to do for this Christmas update is some rebalances. There's no better place to start off than looking at the Agent Pea Shooter. This character's infamous for being basically the best character in the whole game. His gimmick is that he does double damage whenever he does headshots, but he has a really fast rate of fire and does 30 damage for headshots. My idea was to make it so Agent P punishes you for missing your headshots, so I made his rate of fire slower so he can't do nearly 200 DPS. It still has some of the highest DPS out of all the pea shooters if you keep hitting headshots, but it just feels a bit more balanced now. The other character I want to take a look at is the Lorpy, which is the other overpowered pea shooter in the class. The gimmick with this character is he's got 6 ammo in his clip and you have to constantly mash the trigger to unload all the bullets. But the problem is you're able to get the highest DPS of all the pea shooters in the game simply by just mashing the trigger or using an auto clicker like most people do. So my idea was to completely scrap the idea of having to mash the trigger and make him fully automatic. To compensate for this, I made it so his rate of fire is half of what it was initially, and he also does less damage as well. The main idea for this was to make Lorpy a bit more accessible to newer players, while also making it so he's just more fair. I'd like to get some feedback on these balance changes, since obviously I know this might upset some people changing these characters. After I finished the balancing, I decided to go back and fix a few of the pre-existing characters in the mod that aren't the soldiers. I know I said I'd go through each of the characters one by one, but I can't lie, I kinda got a bit carried away. I started out by fixing the imp cannon for the Gargantua, since it used to bounce all the imps around. Then I started porting some of the models from my Graveyard expansion mod back into this one for the Powercorn and the Rockstar. Then I realised that the Stump Smasher variant for Torchwood just wasn't doing damage, so I had to spend basically about 3 hours trying to figure out what the issue was. He is fixed now though and he works as intended. So this video is meant to be dedicated to the foot soldiers, but I mean technically the Robo Zombie's a foot soldier since he appears in the Flag of Power, and he is a class in this mod, so I'm going to count him as a foot soldier and I'm going to fix up the Robo Zombies. I started out by making it so the variants have glowing eyes similar to the regular Robo Zombie, and I started out by polishing up the Zombot 1000. That gave the Pylon Berserker some new sounds too. But there is a third variant for the Robo Zombie that was added for Christmas a few years ago, and it's the Saint Bash Boss 2512, I think the name of it was. And this character I am going to completely remake because honestly it's terrible. It just dashes forward and explodes. It's really annoying to go against. I started out by just making it so he has a regular punch like the other Robo Zombies, but this one applies an ice effect to plants. Then I decided to go back and redo the entire model for the character. Then I gave him a new secondary where he shoots snowballs at plants that will freeze them. I'm not gonna lie, I had to kind of restrain myself making this video because I was so tempted just to start giving this character new variants, but we'll save that for a future video maybe. But for now I have to go back and change all the metadata and icons for the characters that we've changed in this video. Look, they've got icons, and sticker book entries too. So I'm gonna get onto the gameplay now. I'm gonna play as the 2 new foot soldiers and the new rubber zombie that I've made. The next video will be covering Torchwood and Hovergurt, so stay tuned for that one. If you want to download the mod for yourself, the link will be in the description below, but I hope you enjoy the gameplay. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and maybe subscribe if you want to, and I hope to see you all in the next one.